So how do you know when it's time to let go of your job and to move on to something else? It may be quite obvious, but I wanted to make this video to provide support and kind of a sounding board for those of you who are kind of getting to that place where you know that it is time for you to jump ship and start something else. Sometimes we don't know what's around the corner, we don't know what that next step is, and it can be a little bit scary. But what we do know for sure, or what starts to become really clear, is that our time is up. So I'm going to be sharing with you 5 ways to know it's time to leave your job. You could certainly extend this list to 50 or 100 ways. This is only a few highlights. So the first way to know it's time to leave your job is when you know very, very clearly that the skills and the personality required to do your job well are not a good fit for you. You can make yourself do them, you can, kind of call that up within yourself, but it really doesn't play to your strengths. For example, if you have a job that requires you to be very extroverted and in front of people and presenting a lot, and you are an introvert, and you find that absolutely draining and challenging and you just want to yell at people and run the other way, that's a good sign that you're not in the right place and that this job is not serving you and it's not nurturing you. I'm dealing with that a little bit myself in one of my little side jobs that I have, which is one of my bridge jobs, which I knew it would be a temporary job when I took it, and it was a good thing to do at the time, but I also know it's time for me to leave. This job requires me to be in front of people and dealing with people in the public, and for my introverted self, I find that extremely draining. To be honest, it's something I just don't handle well. I can make myself do it, but I really don't enjoy it. And sometimes you don't know these things about yourself until you get 3 months or 6 months or 10 months into a job and you have a really good understanding of how to do your work. And you realize this is okay, but this is really not for me. Or if you have a job, for example, that requires you to travel, and that travel is not serving your relationships with your family and is making things harder, that's a good indicator that it is time to go. Number 2, illness or injury. At one of the jobs I had, it was an extremely physical job where I was throwing freight all day long. Now, I'm a personal trainer. I love to work out, I love to move, I love to be active. But I don't normally lift 30, 40, 50 pound boxes for 8 hours a day. So what happened to me is I knew it was time for me to leave this job, but I didn't have my next step lined up. So I kept doing it, kept hanging on because I wanted to have everything, all lined up. And I got an injury in my SI joint, or my sacral iliac joint. And what I figured out eventually was from the repeated squatting and lifting, and even though I know how to squatting and lunging, and even though I know how to squat and lunge correctly, doing it for 8 hours while holding a 30 or 40 pound case of product was too much for my body. And then eventually it caught up to me and I was in so much pain. I had trouble just taking care of myself and moving around, doing very basic tasks. And it felt like the universe was saying to me, hey, it's time to go. You want some more pain? Because we'll give you more if you don't want to listen to this. Very shortly after that, maybe about a month or so later, I did end up putting in my notice and I left. So sometimes it could be something like that, or an injury from doing repeated movement, or maybe if your job is very sedentary and that is adversely affecting your health and you got to change something, and you may have to take that risk of leaving a secure job, a secure pay and benefits. Number 3, you can't move up. You may not even be able to move laterally. Oh, I know this one. I had a job once where my boss was very manipulative and I did very good at my job and he had me right where he wanted. And at some point, the job was very challenging for a good long while. And then after I got the hang of the job and was able to do it very well after a couple years in, and I wanted to move up and to do something else. And so I started applying for other jobs in the company, and my boss strategically made it impossible for me to get that job. Even though I did get it, he would not allow me the opportunity to train for it the way he would structure the schedule and things like that. It came to the point where I realized I was stuck. I couldn't move up. I later on tried to make a lateral move and that didn't happen either. So I finally got to the point where I realized I either stay here doing what I'm doing, I had decent pay and great benefits, or leave. And I chose to leave. And that's when I started being a personal trainer about 10 years ago. It was the best decision I ever made, but it was really scary to go from security to jump into full-time self-employment and taking on all the responsibility. So sometimes in our, the company we're working for, they will not let you budge. And you're like, hey, I need more growth. I need to learn. I'm bored. I have more I can do, more I can offer. I want to expand and grow. But unfortunately, because of the politics in the company or the people that you're working for, they're just not allowing you to grow. We don't get into jobs, for our whole lives. And sometimes we need to either move around in that company or move to a different company altogether because we're growing. And it's good to allow yourself that change to grow. We outgrow stuff. And if that job isn't growing with you and allowing you to keep expanding your skills, then it's time to go. Number 4, loss of interest. This can take many forms. You find yourself complaining about your job more than anything, taking shortcuts on your job, finding ways to kind of fudge things and maybe not quite being as honest as you used to be, but just generally losing interest, and your morale goes way, way down, your interest is down, you really don't give a shit anymore. And going to work is painful, and you're watching the clock and you're kind of grumbling to yourself and you're just really unhappy. I think if you're going to devote 8 or so hours of your day, 5 days a week to work, make it something you love doing. That's too much, that's too precious to give that much time of your life away to something that you really don't like. So if you find that your attitude about the place is just going south, whether it's because of politics, because of a negative environment or whatever is going on there, if it's not serving you anymore, then it's time to reconsider. Is there some other change that you can make within that company, or do you need to get out completely? And many times I have found it's better to find a new place to work altogether. And number 5, your skills aren't being utilized. So I had a job once where it was encouraged if you had ideas to improve things, kind of like process improvement, that you could share them and maybe implement them. So I thought, great, I'm bored with my job and I want to do more. So I offered to come up with a new position, and I even wrote out a proposal. I had photos because my work involved merchandising, and I had photos of my before and after and everything, and I printed all this up and presented it to the board, and they shot it down. I was like, but I could do so much for you all, and I demonstrated how the whole thing could be beneficial for the company, beneficial for the customers, and beneficial for employees. It was like win, 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 come on, let's go. And I was so excited and feeling so optimistic about it, and it just was not needed. The company seemed to just not be open to that at that time, at least. So, if you're in your position and you've kind of reached the ceiling of what you can do with that job, and you're very proficient at it and you want more, you're not getting more, maybe you offer to do something else, but they're like, nah, we're not going to do that, or no, we don't have the budget for that, or just close doors all the way. It's a good time for you to maybe pull back and say, there is so much more I can offer, and if this company doesn't want it, then I have to go somewhere else where those talents and those skills can be utilized and appreciated. So those are just 5 ways to know that it's time to go and to move on and to take that leap. Sometimes we got to take the leap and not have the other thing lined up, which I have had to do a couple of times. Of course, it's always nicer and better to have your next job lined up. That's always the safest way. And then sometimes life kind of forces us, to jump the ship sooner than we had planned. So I hope that gives you some encouragement and kind of just gives you a little bit of support to know that if you're going through this and you're starting to get to that edge, and you know that change is coming where you're going to have to leave and go into something else, that it's okay to go through this, and it's okay to feel these feelings and let them come up. So I hope this helped you, and if you have a question or comment, please leave it for me below the video. And if you would like to support my channel, please visit the Amazon links below this video, or if you would like to make a donation, that would be so much appreciated. You can go to my homepage, scroll to the bottom, and there's a PayPal donate button. I so very much appreciate you going on this journey with me, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Talk to you later.